my side of the laundry room live. My name is Rob,
I'm Chris.
and just the other day was May the 4th be with you, Star Wars Day. And completely truthful here, this was something that we shot a little bit ago, but we had sound issues. So we're going to try it again, and it fits in perfectly with Star Wars Day. So we're going to talk about the Star Wars trailer that we got for Episode 8.
Finally.
Finally.
And really what started this whole conversation between you and I was the fact that we were both kind of bored at work, and we were watching all the Star Wars Celebration stuff
Yes.
that was being live streamed through Facebook, YouTube, what have you. And we just kind of got on this conversation about where the perspective of Star Wars seems to be going, or in our opinion,
Yes.
where we think it's going.
Yes.
And I think the best way to start this, really our version of this, is if we go to the original two trilogies
Yes.
with their different perspectives. So
what we saw in Episode 1 was the Jedi Council.
absolutely.
And it might be a not often talked topic because a lot of fans want to just see the Jedis as correct. They were right.
Absolutely.
But I'm sorry, as a viewer, when I'm watching it, I'm seeing how unfair they are, how greedy they are, how righteous they are. And I think that's where we kind of start, and that begins the downfall of Vader to a degree, much into the future. But the one thing about Qui-Gon Jinn in that era, he was deemed a gray Jedi.
And to be fair, the Gray Jedi are a concept that kind of really popped up in the games and the novels before it ever really hit
Yes.
the big screen. And the concept of the Gray Jedi, well, the history of the Jedi was simple. When they first were around
Yes.
in the old Republic,
Old.
Republic, they were loose. There was temples that popped up in random planets. There were little sects of Jedi that were coming together
Yes.
to train other Force-sensitive individuals to become Jedi. And then,
Yeah, in a layman's term, they were pagans.
for the most part, yes.
If you're thinking about this in a religious
Just
context of the churches and such. But they worshiped their own deities. They
had their own rules.
These small sects.
And these rules were different from sect to sect to sect.
Right, but there was a underlining factor to all of them, and it was mostly the basis of the Jedi Code. Of
Absolutely.
protecting the weak.
And embracing the Force
Yes.
as a thing that
living entity
binds us, and the
Yeah.
infamous phrases. But
pretty much peace through violence.
but then at some point that a group of Jedi get together and decide that the best thing to do is to create a council.
Yes.
And we're going to pull the Jedi together under one flag, and we're going to put this council and then ultimately the temple at Coruscant. Now, prior to that, a Jedi could go his entire life and never step foot on Coruscant.
Correct.
And never, ever.
And up to this time, Jedi were allowed to marry, have children, teach anyone that they wanted to.
I'm glad you brought that up. That is a concept that is BS. And I'll prove this in one simple statement. Prior to Episode 1 coming out, there was a teaser from Dark Horse with one of the first characters that we saw on the screen in the movie trailer, which was Kayade Mundi.
Yes.
Okay? The first panel of that comic,
Okay.
he's leaving his wife and kids.
Fair
and
enough.
going, so the concept that, and we're going to get into this in another topic, it's going to be kind of like everything we feel that is wrong with the prequels,
Yeah.
and we'll get into this. This is a major beef of mine. But anyway, so the Jedi reform.
Yes.
They go to Coruscant, they start, and in a nutshell, there seems to be two types of Jedi at that time. There are the faithful to the council, and then there are the ones that are like, okay, if this is what we're doing, we're going to go along with it, but don't expect us to go along with every idea, every principle, every,
Are we even taping this? What the fuck just happened? Oh, we are. Sorry.
Technical difficulties. But they ended up becoming what's considered now the Gray Jedi.
One branch of the Gray Jedi.
One
yes.
branch, yes.
And
it's also the beginning of the mention of the Gray Jedi.
Right. Canon,
exactly.
Yes. And that was Qui-Gon Jinn, which,
correct.
Let's be completely honest, he was off planet more than most. He was the Outer Rim kind
Absolutely.
of guardian.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure he saw a need to, I just need to act and not think of where the rules are.
Which was implied
Yes.
in episode 1.
And that in a nutshell is how he became a Grey Jedi in their eyes, because he questioned the council. He was a loose cannon.
And now we get to, why does this matter? Well, yet again, we've had conversations about this, and we believe this is the way Rey is going.
Yes.
And we believe that this new trilogy is going to be the Grey perspective.
Yes.
We got the dark side perspective in the prequels, which we did.
And the light side.
And we got the light side in some of the prequels and into, of course, the original trilogy.
With Luke's growth.
Which is very poetic.
It is.
And very Shakespearean to a degree,
yes.
to get where we're at. So we believe, with the infamous statement in the new trailer, where Luke says, this is the end of the Jedi.
Yes.
And we believe, just us, and I'm sure there's others out there that feel the same way, that basically Rey kind of puts her own spin on the Jedi Order.
Yes. She has been a very practical character from what we've seen.
More practical than any other Jedi that we've seen on the big screen.
Yes. And to be fair, she doesn't even know she is Force sensitive until later on.
Absolutely.
Which, that could add into other arguments to how could she have done it so quickly and things of that nature.
Well, maybe she's just got a buttload of midi-chlorians.
Oh yeah, she's overflowing with midi-chlorians. But the thing is, maybe she's using the Force and not knowing it. Maybe she's able to scale those Star Destroyers easily.
And that's not the first time we've seen this. Yet again, if we go back to episode 1, Anakin seems to have a predisposition for mechanics.
Yes.
Okay? So you have a 7-8-year-old building a pod racer, and we're told that he's the only human that can do this and race the pod racers. And he also has built a droid. C-3PO. So this is one of those cases where this is an individual using the Force and probably doesn't even realize he's using the Force.
Yes.
So we have the same thing again with Rey, who's using the Force.
Yes.
And doesn't even realize she's using the Force.
So maybe that is why it's easy for her to pick it up, because she's been using it all along. It just hasn't had a label. Which gets me to the whole Jedi and Sith thing. These are just labels. I mean, the Force is the Force, and it's in everything.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So there are dark forces, there are light forces, but Sith and Jedi are just a name. So
and the truest definition of the Gray is the ability to walk the line between the light and the dark. And tend to be a little more light, but doesn't fall to the trappings that the dark side tend to have.
Yeah.
And that's the purpose of this. And we've seen this, and you're a bigger fan of this than I am, with Rebels.
Yeah.
And that's more or less probably what most of you have a stronger concept of the Gray ideas coming from Rebels with the
Badu, if that's how you pronounce it correctly. But he is a creature of pure force, malevolent and benevolent at the same time in his teachings.
He's the one who looks like a giant,
like a giant coral or stone or wood or whatever he is made of. But a beautiful creature, beautifully animated, that was the true definition of the Force. And what you had mostly were 3 Jedi that they focused on. You had Ezra, who is the up-and-comer, who does dip his toe into the dark side of things. The practicalities of it, the impatience of it, things that Luke kind of had, but got... Luke very much had it. But that gets kind of...
I mean, for the love of God, in Empire, he wears a dark or a gray outfit, which is, kind of, and you think that's petty, but it's really not.
No.
Because the one thing that Star Wars does is, Vader is dark. Well, why? He's all in black.
And at its core, it's just good versus evil.
Yes, absolutely.
Recently, Lucas had some bullshit that he was saying where it's like greed versus compassion. That's putting too much of a label on it, and it's like, okay, he's saying greedy people just want to keep getting rich. How many fucking toys did you give us, George, if you want to talk about greed? Anyway.
3 bad guys in 3 movies. That was about action figure sales.
Definitely. Let's make them the coolest they can look to slap them on a fucking t-shirt, but then kill them before they can ever do anything. Sad. Very fucking sad. But anyway, it is good and evil. And those are just basic constructs to anything, how anyone views their life. But then I think with the prequels, he got a little too wordy with it. And now...
Well, and you and I have talked about this. I think with the prequels, in my opinion, I think he had writer's block.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we have some of the looser concepts that we ended up with.
Yeah.
And where he was trying to tie everything together. But the concept with Qui-Gon, the concept with Obi-Wan of being Greys, that kind of did their own thing and didn't necessarily follow the Jedi Council. We even know that the Jedi Council offered a seat to Qui-Gon, and he respectfully turned it down.
Right. But to be fair with Obi-Wan, he grew into that. Because at
first,
he
had no choice.
With his, being younger, he was questioning, but the council.
And then the fact that you turn around and other than Yoda, there's no one else to answer to some extent as well. He becomes what...
I mean, Yoda has a righteousness to him, which I guess is what made him the teacher he was to Luke later, because he saw what their downfall was. He had so many years to reflect on
Absolutely.
But Mace Windu was the more righteous of the two.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And personally, probably one of my favorite characters from the original, or from the prequels, which I can't say that about many of those characters, but that, whatever, we digress.
We'll get into that
yes.
another day.
But the idea that we have 3 separate trilogies,
right,
and I think we're going to have 3 separate end results.
Right.
And 2 of which, of course, were the end of Episode 3. We saw the rise of the Sith again.
Yes.
And yet again, that gets back to the whole fact that there's balance to the Force, which the light to the dark.
Exactly.
So at the beginning of the prequels, we have no balance. We have 2 Sith, and we have 23,000 Jedi running around. So in a way, Anakin does exactly what he's supposed to do, which is balance the Force. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's a good thing or a bad thing. He's just balancing the Force.
It in name of learn.
Right.
Jedi and
Correct.
Sith. But
Correct.
as we've discovered, there's more creatures of the Force, that are good and evil and in the middle. But, and like I was saying, you have Ezra on this side as good that dips his finger into bad. You now on this side, excuse us, folks.
It's like a bad Star Trek episode.
But you then have Darth Maul on the other side.
Correct.
Who is seeking nothing but revenge and redemption for being fucked over by Dooku, and he wants to exact his revenge on Vader because that is the shining pillar of the Force, or the Sith, that he wants to take down. So,
which is an interesting concept in and of itself.
It is, and it was, but he dipped his toe into the light side. Yes, it was to get what he wanted, but he had real affection for Ezra to possibly him be his apprentice. I mean, along the way, his vengeance is what blinded him, gratefully.
Which by definition takes you closer to the dark side, from what we've been told throughout the Jedi mythos.
But down the middle, you have Kanan, who, up to this point when we meet him, he's a smuggler, and he's rarely used his lightsaber. It was very cool. If you don't know, he has it in pieces around his belt. So when he's running into battle, he's snapping it together. Oh, so it's not visibly just hanging off of his belt.
which at the time would make more sense than
Yes.
have it hanging. It's like, a big target if you have a lightsaber
Oh
hanging
yeah.
off
Oh
of your
yeah.
belt at that time frame.
So he struggled mostly with just giving up because the Jedi's were gone. Because he
Okay.
was a Padawan when the Clone Wars started.
Okay.
I can't remember, bad of me, who his master was.
Write it in the comments, please. It
And
helps us both.
they died. So he was left on his own.
Order 66.
Order
Yeah, I got it.
66. So he's definitely a Ronin out there, but doing his own thing. He's using the Force to swindle and shit. So he's
Okay.
down the middle. But
He's doing what he needs to do to survive at a bad time in the galaxy.
exactly. But it wasn't until the end of season 2 where, through a vision or whatever it ended up being, he met ghosts of the Jedi Knights, the original Knights, with the armor on.
Ooh.
And they made him an official Jedi. Then he became blinded. Maul slashed him across the eyes. So
Okay.
he's permanently blind now, which is cool. He wears a cool eyeless face mask with paint, like a design on it.
Okay.
And that was where we meet the Badu, because he's struggling on, okay, I can use the Force and get around, but the Badu teaches him, you are the Force is all around you. So now I can do it naturally like Matt Murdock and shit,
I got you.
where it's just woo around him. So then he can focus on being a badass again too.
So, yet again, this is the first real exposure that we have to the Gray Jedi concept.
Yes, but it's a concept that I think will work awesomely from going here on out. I mean, Luke is disenfranchised. Honestly, he never really had a true Jedi teaching. Once he came across holocron, shit when he's going through these old
And
temples.
apparently also guides. We get the hint during the trailer that he has found some sort of documents, for lack of a better term, that he's of the original order, and that he's read. So how much? The question is with Last Jedi is, what does Luke know? How much does Luke actually know of the Jedi history? And how much of that has skewed his opinion?
Right. Like, is he reading that Yoda is doing heinous shit? Not
necessarily
villainous,
that.
but,
Let's say he actually discovers the fact that the Jedi at one time were very much separate. Okay, and then it's somewhere along the line they get unified. I believe under what was it, the Sith War, the Sith Wars, and they end up becoming the Jedi Council that we've seen, and So what happens if Luke's actually gotten privy to that? What happens if Luke actually finds all that out after Ben Solo does whatever he does to the new Jedi Temple?
Right, when he went into hiding.
So this is you start to figure that maybe this is some of the reasons why Luke was in hiding. Maybe this is some of the reasons why Luke is,
Yeah, but I mean, in my mind, I doubt they'll ever do it. But it's like, if he's reading over this stuff and it's like, a planet needs help, oh, we can't interfere, sign Yoda. It'd be like, that wasn't the Yoda I know. Back then, shit was bad. Let's just get rid of it and just be one with the Force, everybody. I mean, there's a lot of rumors that Mark Hamill himself was shocked when he read the script, but he's been a fan that it's Jedi, Jedi, Jedi. Just reading the fact of he wants to destroy the Jedi, that could be shocking.
But yeah, when you walk, but if you're Mark Hamill and you're walking away from Return of the Jedi in 1982 filming, okay,
right,
you're leaving it with the sense that your mental picture is Luke's going to go bring back the second Rise of the Jedi.
Right. And in the year 2000, Lucas is going to make new movies and Luke's kids. That was what he was told, so. And I'm sure over the 30-odd years that he was like, yeah, of just the whole kid side of things. But who knows? Who knows?
But if this is the script that he's given, he reads it.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously it's a departure of what Lucas wanted to do.
Yes.
Thank God. That it was probably very shocking to Hamill to read it.
Yes, but people were instantly going, well, he's going to turn evil. That doesn't mean that at all.
And you know what? If he does, That's kind of cool.
That is kind of cool. I mean, it'll kind of fracture our childhood a little
it will
bit, but
fracture our childhood, but at the same time, it is the complete right of where you think this whole thing's going.
Yeah.
And that's kind of cool in the perspective that it's not what we expected.
Yeah.
Which to some extent, Star Wars is kind of a little methodical. So if they do something like that, I'm not shocked at it. Would it fracture me? No more or worse than Han Solo getting it in Episode 7. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Exactly.
you know,
But I think that would be very, sorry to use the term DC Comics of them. Hey, we're going to parade these people out and kill them, like DC has done in their movies for years.
you're going to create a character to destroy a character instead of giving the
But, to destroy
characters that have been around for 60 years to destroy that character. No, it's not. Okay, I'm sorry. That was a DC reference. If you're not sure, we lived it. So, anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
Digress.
Exactly. Anyway, but
look,
hopefully they just don't parade these people out and kill them in front of us. I mean, unfortunately, with what happened to Carrie Fisher, they might just have to in that case to give a fitting end to that character.
Absolutely, absolutely. The only thing I ask for that is let it be heroic.
Yes.
For someone for Leia, if this makes any sense, for someone I think was so ahead of her time for an on-screen female character that wasn't just waiting to be rescued. The moment she has the opportunity, she creates the escape in the Death Star.
Yes.
The moment she has the opportunity, she's giving the commands on Hoth. This not a typical female character.
And she was the captain
that we
down
had
with the,
the 70s and 80s.
Too,
So the only fitting way, if you're going to deal with Carrie's passing, is let it be heroic. That's the only thing I hope for.
And I think in that passing they should include Admiral Akbar with that, since Tim Rose
absolutely,
as well,
absolutely,
to give that character a fitting send.
I couldn't agree more.
But yeah, and people are saying Daisy Ridley in interviews is disenfranchised with Luke's teachings.
Oh, shocker.
She doesn't even want to be there to begin with.
No, she's returning a lightsaber.
Yeah.
If we get to the purest extent of it, okay, she is not leaving the Resistance base to go become a Jedi. She is leaving the Resistance base to find Luke, and essentially, in the purest extent, return his lost lightsaber.
Yeah.
If you think about it, that's the only information we have. There's nothing at the end of Episode 7 that says, "Oh, now I'm going to go get taught by Luke to be a Jedi."
Right. That was all that we assumed, and that
we assume it, yes,
happen,
but we didn't get it. You know what I mean?
No. I mean, but I don't think we should ever take into fact, because of her disenfranchisement. They're saying that either he'll turn dark or she'll turn dark. It's like, why's everything got to turn dark? People just want to jump on that so bad.
Well, the cool thing about Star Wars is they do such a good job of striking those contrasts.
Yes.
Between the dark and the light, and they have for the last 6 movies.
Cinematically, we've never really have seen gray. We can theorize about it now from what we've learned, but in the original viewing of those 3 movies, Luke just seemed like he turned into a knight, in a fantasy way of speaking. You know, yeah, I mean, he was impatient and kind of whiny at times, things like that, but he still kicked ass. He didn't have this aura of he has rules around him that we got with the prequels. Why did Anakin go evil? Because he couldn't get married to Padme. He couldn't. Yeah.
Just.
I mean, the thing is. Yeah. Anyway. Save that for another day.
So, long and short of it, tell us what you think.
Yeah.
See if do you agree with our concept of the?
Are you all for the gray as well? I
mean, we want your feedback. We want your opinions. These are ours, nothing more. You know what I mean? And we're speculating, and
it's just fun discussion, which is what Star Wars should always be. It should just be fun.
It should be always be
People
fun.
are taking it way too seriously, and that's a little sad.
Absolutely. Me and him aren't making T-shirts that says our theory's correct.
Exactly.
So anyway,
Well, if we charge money, maybe we will. Never mind.
Well, I mean,
But
it'll improve our production value.
yeah. But oh, don't even go there. My friend.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I mean, it's a new day and age. We want to see practicality. And does that mean that she'll just start lopping legs and arms off? No, of course not. But it's just nothing holding her back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stupid rules.
Absolutely.
Or Luke, for that matter. So,
but if nothing else, we'll all be in theaters in December. And we're all going to watch it. And we're all going to have an opinion. Yes. We're all going to have a theory.
And there's going to be a part of people think it sucked. Part of people think it love it. I mean, unfortunately, even Rogue One at this point, people are like, yeah, now that I've watched it 50 times, there's some problems. I mean,
sure there is. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know what? I'm sure the 70th time you read Shakespeare, you may find a flaw. Okay?
Exactly.
There's a flaw in everything, and there's nothing wrong with that. But do yourself a favor, everybody who's hypercritical of Rogue One and Force Awakens, pretend for a second that you're 7 years old and you're watching it again, because that's what Star Wars is to at least us.
Yes.
You know, for those guys who grew up with Star Wars and enjoyed it and loved it and changed our perspective of the world because of it, and led us into other avenues because of it, do yourself a favor and kind of pretend that you're a kid again as you're watching it, because that's what I do every time.
Oh yeah.
Every time.
I'm still in awe. I'm still that kid.
Yep.
That's why I like Ewoks, which draws the ire of purists and true fans.
There is no purist.
No.
There is no purist.
Even Lucas himself was not a purist.
Obviously. But there's no purist.
There's one pure thing, and that's money.
But there is no purist. I'm a purist. You're a purist. And my version of purity is going to be different than your version of purity. Your idea of purity is going to be different than our idea of purity.
But to be honest, my purity of it is childhood.
Absolutely. I'm with you.
And it's 100%. At that. It's at that.
I'm with you 100%.
But anyway. As we say goodbye, keep being rad, stay dorky.
Bye.